If you're ever curious to know what plastic surgery Dolly Parton might have had, then keep watching. I think everybody knows who Dolly Parton is, but who is Dolly Parton? Dolly Rebecca Parton was born in January 19th, 1946. So she's now 76 years old. She was born in Tennessee, and she was born pretty poor. So it's pretty amazing that she's built herself into this amazing country singer, actress, philanthropist, businesswoman. Dolly Parton is known as being the most successful country music singer of all time. She's hit number one 26 different times. Her most famous song, of course, again, is possibly Jolene. And it's interesting because it's about a beautiful woman trying to steal her husband away from her. Most people may not know, but Dolly Parton's been married to her husband, the same husband, for over 50 years. Dolly Parton hit her kind of stride in songwriting in the mid-1970s. And it's interesting because right around that time, her mentor kind of pulled her aside and told her he thinks she could be really something huge if she made her look a little more glamorous and made her songs a little more commercial, and the rest is history. So let's get into Dolly's sort of glamorous look. She's made lots of comments, been very open about her look and some of her plastic surgery. And I think some of her quotes are talking about that she feels it's sort of a country sort of glam.
Came from a serious place of a country girl's idea of glamour.
She felt that she was not naturally pretty, and a lot of people disagree with that. I think that when she was younger, she was pretty. And I think she's just, as she said, done the most with what she's got. And I think over the years, kind of used it to enhance her career and her own image, and I think she's done it very well. One thing she said is, if I have a quote here, it says, plastic surgery, she says, absolutely. If something is bagging, sagging, or dragging, I'll tuck it, suck it, or pluck it. I don't think she's very shy about it, but I don't know if she's told us everything, and that's okay. People can have some of their secrets, but we're gonna go through some of the things she has talked about and some of the things she may not have talked about. We start out by getting into some of the procedures Dolly's seemingly admitted to having done. There was a People's Magazine article in 2003 where they talked to her plastic surgeon as well as her, and they sort of seemingly again admitted that she had her eyes, lips, and breasts done. Not necessarily super specific, but she did have surgery on those three areas of her body. And I think her plastic surgeon said that yes, he was somewhat responsible for her generous bosom, and that also he felt that she was naturally pretty and he was just enhancing her features. He said he did do some facial rejuvenation on her, but that he never performed a full facelift. The reason I do the full is there's a lot of semantics involved in sometimes what people will say. So did she have a mini facelift, but not a full facelift, or some other type of facelift? So you got to kind of read between the lines on that one. There was an interview with Larry King where Dolly again makes her witty comments about plastic surgery. To quote her directly, I think she said, I look at myself like a show dog. I've got to keep her clipped and trimmed and in good shape. And she's done pretty much that over the years, right? She's kept herself in good shape. So those are some of the things vaguely admitted to, but what do we think she's done? Like her plastic surgeon said, whether we start out pretty or not, we all age. So when people don't age, then usually something's going on. I think in Dolly's case, definitely probably multiple breast surgeries over the years. Definitely started getting her lips probably injected. I think that also a rhinoplasty. And then lastly, even though they said maybe not a full facelift, if not that, then I would guess that there would have been multiple mini facelifts done over the years. Again, it's done well and tastefully, and overall at 76, she looks pretty amazing. There was photos of her where they showed or photoshopped what she looks like now and what she would have looked like possibly if you didn't have any plastic surgery, and you can see the difference if you don't reverse aging or at least try to prevent it as much as you can. So to start with Dolly, I'd just like to kind of go a little timeline with her, starting when she was a little younger. I personally think she was pretty when she was younger. She was an attractive, naturally pretty Southern country girl. So I don't know what she says. She doesn't feel she was pretty. I think she was attractive, and I think kudos to her is that she kind of has maintained that over the years and hasn't gone too extreme with everything. Again, an interesting thing about Dolly Parton and some celebrities that have been with us for a lot of decades is in their earlier career there wasn't a lot of things available, right? When she was younger in her 30s and so, Botox, fillers, things like this weren't even available back then. Interesting that when she got into the 1980s, 85, breast implants were invented somewhat a little bit earlier around those times. It was a little bit earlier than that, and we see her getting her breast augmentation. So that's been fairly obvious and everybody's been fairly vocal about it. And I think she's probably had more than one over the years, and it's given her kind of her iconic image. It's one of the things that people associate with Dolly Parton.
What do you mean what happened? These two big lumps came up and they never did go down.
I don't think it's done in a negative way, but it's definitely something she's maintained over the years. It also is interesting, I think around that time, maybe the late 70s, I think 1978, so she already had the breast augmentation. She posed for the cover of Playboy, respectfully, but again, it's one of those things where I think is building this image of Dolly Parton. I wanted to talk about her nose. I don't see much talk about it, but as I always say, if we see a nose shrinking over the years, that's not the natural thing that happens to a nose. It gradually, typically, will get a little bit bigger as we get a little bit older. And we see that Dolly's nose from her younger years to when she's a little bit older has actually shrunk, become more defined. The tip is more defined. The bridge is narrower. To me, it looks like most likely a rhinoplasty was done at some point in her career. And I don't think it was necessarily multiple rhinoplasties, but probably at least one. So when we look at her from the early 1990s through 2000, again, we don't see major changes in Dolly, but we also see her maintaining her look. We don't see her aging extremely. So again, I'm suspicious throughout that time that there are little tweaks and nips and tucks done there, probably little mini lifts and little fillers and Botox, the normal things that someone who's being photographed in the limelight as much as her is going to do.
Where do you hide your wrinkles?
Well, you'll have to ask the doctors in Beverly Hills about that. I don't know where they've
Again,
got
I think it was done well. I don't think that it was done extreme. And I think then even as we get more recent into 2010, these years, we see, again, some subtle changes in her. I do notice changes in her upper eyelids and in her brow. So most likely at some point a brow lift was performed, and in the very least upper eyelid surgeries. And I think she also admitted on Larry King that she had upper eyelid surgery. One comment about that is, again, techniques have advanced over the years. When we see her eyelids change from the earlier surgeries, we see that the eyes are more opened up. We see more of her upper eyelid, but also we see that it sunk in a little bit. And that was an older technique that most eyelid surgeons don't do anymore, is with that technique and removing the eyelid skin, sometimes they took out some of the fat pads up here, and it would cause the eyelids to sink in a little bit or give an older look. So most surgeons have stopped performing the fat pad removal in that eyelid surgery. And interesting for Dolly or people like her is some surgeons, including me, are now doing fat grafting in that area to replenish some of that fat. If people had one of those older procedures and wanted to rejuvenate that area again, they can repair some of that by doing fat grafting in that area. One other thing I noticed that I've talked about before, and this is not picking on Dolly Parton, is that sometimes when people undergo multiple facelifts or mini lifts, they have to be careful of the nerves in the lower face and the smile. Sometimes we can see a change in the smile, and I do notice in some of the more recent photos of her that her smile is a little asymmetric, particularly in the lower lip, and that can, not necessarily, but it can be an indication that something was happened during one of those multiple facelift procedures. And also, it could be that she's continuously filling her lips, but it does appear a little off to me in some more recent photos. There's also some speculation that Dolly may have had a chin implant placed at some time. Again, interesting with her, the timeline for her earlier on, similar to like Marilyn Monroe and that type of time period. Chin implants weren't quite invented yet, so they were doing more cartilage grafts or other types of grafts in that area. I don't think her chin necessarily appears like it was augmented. And again, now we have much better tools in the toolbox for that, such as fillers or fat grafting or other things that slightly augmented it. And I guess that would be a more likely explanation for that area in her face, as well as those multiple facelifts and tightening and enhancing that jawline at the same time. I think that's probably more plausible than a chin implant in her. Then there, in Dolly's case, like almost all celebrity cases, there's the dreaded poofy photos. So I have noticed in my research that there's some photos out of there, her looking really poofy or overstuffed and different. And again, I think if those are real, as I always say, sometimes celebrities have to give themselves a little more time to recover before going out publicly. But I guess in Dolly's case, given her hectic lifestyle and work ethic, she might have had to go do something a little too early and was still swollen. But it's not something we see multiple times. Maybe it's just somebody captured a point in time where she was still having a little bit of swelling from recovery. But I don't think it's something where she went and overdid plastic surgery. Overall, I think Dolly's a fairly good example of how to do plastic surgery right. She's done some work. It's gonna be noticed, so she's being honest about it. She's saying, I have done some work, but also I like the fact that she's also keeping some things kind of a secret, because it's always good to keep people guessing just a little. Overall, she's kind of balanced it out great. She's kind of leaked out, yes, I've done some things, because like I said, nobody's not going to age, so definitely things were done, and obviously some things were enhanced. So I like that she was honest about some of those things, and maybe keeping some secrets to herself. It's common entertainers that are constantly being photographed to want to gradually change their appearance so it's not so obvious. They don't one day get photographed, the next day they come back and they're a completely different person. So I think, again, she's doing that right, doing little touch-ups, little mini lifts or little eyelid procedures, doing it gradually over time, and kind of keeping up, maintaining, and or gradually lifting and rejuvenating things so that it's not completely obvious what she's doing. And then secondly, she does a good job of camouflaging things. She's really good with her makeup. She was really well known for wearing a lot of wigs, which will hide a lot of things as far as incisions or scars or anything on her face. And in fact, I challenge people to go out there and try to find a picture of Dolly Parton without a wig. Good luck, you're not going to find one.
Dolly, how long does it take for you to do your hair?
I wouldn't know. I'm never there.
So I think overall she's done a good job, doing it gradually and leaking out a little bit that she's admitting it. And then she's doing a great job of kind of camouflaging and keeping up her appearance. So I think she's doing that very well. And on top of that, she's still working over 9 to 5 and maintaining the schedule. So good for her. I think she's one of the people that has done it right.